backups performed pretty well. And that interior of the defensive line, I mean, it's like you got two sets of starters, right?
Yeah.
With Fadarius Martin coming back, and then
Mathis.
Ridgeway,
Fadarian
Mathis. Sorry, I knew I
That
knew
was a
I was screwing
serious.
that up.
That was a
Hey,
serious.
I've been on a pretty good
Fadarian.
hot streak.
How's it going, man?
Son, what's good?
Nothing much. Another week. Some more crazy headlines out here in DC. Things are heating up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting interesting. Before we get into it, guys, don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. We've had an influx of new viewers over the last couple of weeks. We really appreciate that. We'd appreciate it even more if you like it. Hang around and subscribe. Go back, check out some of our old videos. Tons of good quality content up on the channel. And we're coming to you. We get questions. People ask, when do you upload? Monday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then you'll probably get a couple shorts like clockwork. And you'll probably get a couple shorts throughout the week as well to kind of keep you involved. So just check up on that. And without further ado, what do you say we get into it, Pop?
Yeah, I'll mention that during the season, we typically do 2 pods. We'll do a post-game pod right after the game, and then pre-game pod during the week. So look forward to that.
We've been known to get after it during the regular season. So we'll see what kind of format we bring to you guys this year. But definitely, if you're coming to us now, you're buying low because there is a lot more great stuff coming your way. We ramp up during the training camp. And then once the season hits, we really start cranking. So,
but enough about us.
Get in while you can. Enough about us. Let's hit the Commanders. So, big headline of the week. Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated reports that the Commanders are open to trading Chase Young. Now, I'm real glad, Pop, in this outline here, you included the reporter's name because generally there are certain reporters, we're not going to name them, but there's certain guys that just tweet about everything and get a lot of clicks on Twitter, and generally they just tweet all kinds of crazy. Anytime there's a rumor, there's one guy in particular I'm thinking of. He's always tweeting it.
Right.
Albert Breer is not that guy. Albert Breer is very much a where there's smoke, there's usually fire kind of guy, really respectable reporter. So he is coming out and saying that the Commanders are open to trading Chase Young. Crazy news, especially coming off the heels of apparently him and Montez Sweat both look quite effective in training camp. They both look very good. So it's pretty crazy. I mean, we talked about it earlier in the year as a possibility when the whole 5th-year option thing came up. What do you make of this, Pop? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I guess they said it really was kind of heating up during the draft, and nothing ended up happening. So I guess, whatever the teams that were interested as of yet have not brought enough to the table. I was reading a bit of Albert Breer's article as well, and he just talked about the fact that it's kind of a runoff between Montez and Chase, and does it make sense to get some value now while you can? So it's definitely interesting. I think both Chase and Montez had their press conferences. I was actually impressed with Chase's press conference by how little he said and how professional he was about it. He talked about he not being at the voluntary workouts because he was working out in Colorado. So he kind of explained that a bit. He was getting himself ready to go and continuing to make sure that knee is as strong as possible. Said he wasn't worried about the contract, wasn't worried about having to prove himself. It was always his attitude to do that. I think, Montez has a little bit different approach, but similar comments on his part. So both of them really handled it like pros, and I was happy about that. In terms of the trade rumors, we're going to get into that a little bit. We're going to have Dominic play general manager, his favorite position, his perhaps future position for the Washington Commanders. I hear he's been dapping up Josh Harris, trying to get in his good graces. I don't know.
I wish.
Might be losing my podcast partner. Might have an opening here. But
tell you what, I'm warmed up because after I lost the Super Bowl in Madden franchise yesterday, I spent about 2 hours rebuilding that entire team. So I'm ready to
I
go
want to hear a little
over
bit
here.
about that
I'm
later.
warmed up.
I want to hear a little bit about that later. But yeah, I mean, I want to get into a little bit. What are the teams that are most favored to trade for Chase Young? And what would it take for GM Dami of the Washington Commanders to actually accept the trade? What do you think, son?
So from what I'm hearing, it seems like the Chiefs, the Bears, Lions, and the Cardinals have been named interested right now. Now I
I've got
assume
the
Tom, you
odds
probably
right here.
got
You want to hear the
you
odds?
got some odds. Yeah, let me hear
Let me
the odds.
get the odds here. All right. Baltimore Ravens come in at the sixth most likely team to get him at plus 400. New Orleans Saints, fifth most likely team at plus 380. Seattle Seahawks next at plus 350. Kansas City Chiefs, as you mentioned, at plus 350. Chicago Bears at plus 320. And your Detroit Lions are most favored to trade for Chase Young or acquire Chase Young at a plus 300. What do you think of them odds?
I think Detroit makes a lot of sense. They've got a lot of assets, young team, building the right core. They just picked up Aiden Hutchinson. That defensive line has a lot of potential. I think Aiden Hutchinson is a star. And I think you pair him up with a guy like Chase Young, and you look at how our offensive line was when, or our defensive line was, excuse me, when Chase was at his fully healthy peak. That's a great fit there. The Chiefs, obviously, I think they just lost Frank Clark, was it? Just left, I believe. And then you got the Bears, tons of assets there. Cardinals, I don't think the Ravens are happening. I think they're just not going to have the money to pay him what he's going to want after this year. It would definitely be a very like Von Miller going to the Rams esque. It's like they're
Right.
all in to just get to the Super Bowl. It could happen. It could happen. Speaking of Von Miller, another team I think would be interesting would be the Bills. I know he trains with Von Miller in the offseason. I think the Bills really need a little bit more on defense. I don't know if they'll have the money to re-sign him, but you look at Von Miller might not have a lot of time left in the uh,
It's a
in the
good
league.
call.
He's getting old, so maybe he kind of gets that mentorship for a year, fills in. I'm talking a little bit out of my cooler there. I'm not so familiar with the Bills' defensive line situation, but that's that's where I'm at on that.
So, how about I give you this is out of Bleacher Report. I'm going to give you some teams and some trade offers. I'm going to
All right,
tell me whether or not they're good enough. You're interested. Do you accept the trade or you decline it?
all right.
All right. Arizona Cardinals. They get Chase Young, of course, and the Commanders receive safety Buda Baker and their 2024 fourth round pick. Ah, okay, I agree with you there.
Decline. Don't like it. We don't need him. We don't need Buda Baker. He's a great player. We don't need him. That's not a position. Safety is not a position of need at all, and I think that's the big value piece in that trade. So I don't have any interest in that. I mean, unless we're talking about not bringing back Cam Curl. Now, if that's happening, maybe that makes sense, but doesn't make sense to me
Almost
personally.
sounds like that offer was somebody that doesn't understand our team that well. But next on
Perhaps.
board, Chicago Bears. They would the Commanders would receive their 2024 second round pick. Is that enough to wet your beak?
Might be. Might be. Let me see what the other offers are. I'll
All
table
right,
that as a maybe. I'll table
all
that
right,
as a maybe. Second rounder is that's good return.
all right. Detroit Lions are next up. Washington would receive their 2024 third round pick and edge rusher
And
Julian Aquara.
not super familiar with this game. Don't think we need any more edge rushers. Chicago is the highest bidder at the moment, in my opinion. I think
Okay,
even if we lose Chase, we're okay.
all right. Next up is Houston Texans. Houston would offer their 2024 third round pick and defensive end Jonathan Greenard.
Again, same. I'd rather just have the second rounder so far.
All right. I think this might be the last one. New Orleans Saints. They would get a third round draft pick from us,
Hmm.
and we would get their second round pick in 2024 and their sixth round pick in 2024 and defensive end Peyton Turner.
So a second, a sixth, and a defensive end.
But we have to give up a third.
No, I'm
Yeah.
still with Chicago. Chicago
Okay.
would be my pick, and that's obviously it's the elephant in the room. It's disappointing you spend the number 2 overall pick and all you get back for him is
So
a second rounder, right?
yeah, what was interesting about that, at least from Bleacher Report's perspective, we got to hear or see a little bit of what the market is like for
Yeah,
Chase. So then putting it on the table, best offer sounds like a second round pick. Would you do it? Regardless if
no,
it's the Bears, or would you do it?
ah,
Or do you have Chase play out this season?
I'd do it because now obviously this is a wildly different situation, right? And there was a lot of off the field drama that kind of played into this. But when you look at the Trent Williams situation, I, the last offer we got before we said there's no way in hell we're trading him was a first rounder from New England. They were willing to
Right.
give us a first rounder. Now, that was back when New England was New England. It would have been the 32nd overall pick, and everybody was like, no way, first rounder. We ended up trading him for a fifth. So the value on these trades right now, Washington has the most leverage they're ever going to have because you go to the table with anybody and they're going to say, what are you going to trade him to me for? What's the point in trading for this guy? He's going to be in free agency. You want to trade because he wants to leave. We'll just give him our sales pitch. What are we going to give you something to then lose the guy? It doesn't make sense. So I think you got to trade if you're not bringing him back, which they're not going to bring him back. Would be my gut feel. I think he's gone. I think you take that second rounder and you look at Jeff Okuda, who went a pick after to the Lions, and he got traded for a third rounder. So
But
you take your win.
there's another
You take
play
your win
here.
where you can get it.
There's another play here, right? You bring Montez and Chase back. They're on contract years, highly motivated. Chase appears very healthy finally. And then, you can decide which one of the two you can keep. Think the thought process is we could afford one, not both.
Yeah.
But, you've got that franchise tag in play and you could sign and trade. So, it doesn't end that opportunity for next season. I think for me to do it, the Bears second round pick sounds like the best option, but I would definitely have to be kind of blown away by an offer and make sure it's worth our while. Second round pick's pretty good. It's right on that borderline of maybe being good enough. It might be the smart thing to do for the team, but there is that other option of, letting it play out. And I always kind of go back to, in my mind, Ron, who's making the decisions, at least for now, is on a 1 year deal, right? I mean, officially he's got 2 years left, but he's got to prove himself now, right? To a new ownership group. And I think he's going to do what's best for this team in 2024. It's
This
just
year.
human nature for that to happen. But it's really
Mm,
kind of fun to go through those scenarios and see what happens. I mean, I think we were both on record saying we're really rooting for Chase and,
yeah.
we really hope that he is on that trajectory that he was after his rookie season, and we see a great year from him. And I think I'm optimistic with
Yeah. I
regards to that.
think, it should be interesting. I think there's a world where he balls out and he comes back and we sign him to a big deal and everybody goes, yay, we did it. There's another world where we go 7-10 next year again. Howell looks average. Chase plays okay. And now you're stuck at the end of the year and you don't get anything and you need to look at maybe spending that money at quarterback. I think, to be honest with you, I think we caught lightning in a bottle with Deron Payne. I think we got lucky on keeping him around and being able to keep him around. He didn't really want to go to free agency. He's a pretty, from what I've heard from some other reporters and stuff, it seems like he's a pretty chill, low key dude. He just wants to go play football. He's not really interested in the other stuff. And definitely can't say the same for Chase Young. And I think he's going to want to get paid. I think he's going to want to go play somewhere he wants to play. And I don't think after the way this has gone, that's going to be Washington. But I think Montez Sweat, market might be a little bit cooler on a guy like him. Bring him back. We still, our defense performed at a top 3 level last year without Chase Young. For me, I'm getting rid of Chase Young. I'm making that trade and getting something back for him at least, because a second round pick can be Brees Hall. You know, a second round pick can be an incredibly talented. There are a lot of good. Joey Porter Jr. went in the second round. We got a really good quarterback in the second round, and I'm blanking on the young man's name. I'm sorry, but you can get Terry McLaurin was a third rounder. You can get good talent in the second round. So I think you get that
Yeah.
trade, you make the move, and maybe that second round pick turns into assets that we can start rolling into some kind of package to go get a quarterback if we need to next year.
There's a lot to be
So
said for, that'd be a smart move. There's no question about it if you can get that kind of offer. Right.
I'd make the trade, but obviously, time will tell. That's really what it's going to
Yeah,
come down
as
to
a
is what
fan,
can Chase do?
it's always tough, right? There's the emotional side that just really doesn't want to let a player of that talent and that ability and second pick of the draft go just yet. And
Yeah,
part of me is like, let me see one more season. Let's see if this guy can start being on that trajectory to be the superstar that we thought he would be. And you've already invested a second round pick. But the coaches and the current front office that's there, they're in the building with him every day. They know most about it. They know what they believe he can become. It's going to be interesting to see what that decision ends up being.
yeah, yeah. It should be fascinating. It's going to be interesting. We'll have to see when we get there. Otherwise, let's hit a little bit of minicamp talk.
I
Let's wrap
love
up.
I
Let's
love Dominic,
get
general
on the field.
manager. By the way, I love Dominic, the general manager.
I'm trying my best over here. I'm trying my best. It's certainly there's no way it's an easy job, or there's no way it can be as easy as it seems.
That's for sure.
Because so many people wouldn't be so damn bad at it, and so many of our people wouldn't be so bad at it. But hopefully that is behind us with all the changes and whatnot. And let's get into some mini camp. What do you say, Pop?
Let's do it.
Let's talk a little mini camp. So, what are you feeling most optimistic about after mini camp? Now, obviously, everybody's answer is Dan Snyder. That's the quick answer. Dan Snyder gone, Josh Harris coming in, ownership group. Everybody's feeling most optimistic about that. But we're gonna take that off the table. We're gonna talk on the field,
That's the obvious
coaching.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's too easy, and it's no fun. We finally got rid of this guy, and the whole point of getting rid of the guy was so that we don't have to sit here and talk about him every week. So he's out. We're not talking about him anymore. After I just got done talking about him. So, what do you think, Pop? What are you most optimistic about on the field, coaching? You could do roster moves if you want, but what are you most optimistic about after minicamp?
For me, what I'm most optimistic about is the defense. Right. I
I
just
like it.
feel like across the board, you might want to argue linebacker, although hearing some good things about Khalid Hudson and was it Cody Barton who we traded for, and even
Yeah, they seem to really like him.
your favorite Mayo, and of course Jamin Davis coming back. Hopefully he
I'm
he
coming for Mayo's
heals.
roster spot.
But I feel like just the secondary is just chock full of young talent, especially after this
Definitely.
draft with Forbes and Quan Martin. That D line, I do think Sweat, and I don't think Chase Young at the end of the day gets traded. I really don't. I think they're going to have something to prove, and their backups performed pretty well. And that interior of the defensive line, I mean, it's like you got two sets of starters,
Yeah.
right? With Martin coming back, and then
Mathis, Fedarian
Ridgeway,
Mathis.
Mathis. Sorry,
That
I
was a
knew I was screwing
serious.
that up.
That
Hey,
was a serious.
I've been on a pretty good
Fedarian,
hot streak.
you've been doing good.
I've been
You've
on a
been
pretty
doing
good
good
hot streak.
Hey,
I shouldn't
you
have
know,
attempted it. I shouldn't have
for our
attempted it.
loyal for our loyal listeners, the
There's your
segment is
opening.
back. Fedarius Martin,
Anyway, defense for me. Enough said.
Fedarian Mathis.
That's what I'm
Good. Yeah,
most optimistic about.
I
What about
like
you,
it.
son?
I agree. I'm gonna go receiving group for me. The wide receivers, pass catchers in general.
I
I think
like it.
There's been a lot of good talk about the tight end room, and about how Logan looks like Logan. He looks like himself. He looks good. And you see that it takes 2 full years to make it back from an ACL injury, unless you are Adrian Peterson, and especially when you talk about a vertical threat kind of tight end, making a lot of cuts, that kind of vibe, and he's blocking too. It's gonna take a while for him to get that confidence back in his leg. I'm hearing he's starting to look the way that he normally looks. So that's good
That's
news. Cole
very good
Turner,
news.
Cole Turner, you're looking for him to take a step forward this year. And then of course, McLaurin and Dotson, we know our studs. Curtis Samuel already dealing with a little bit of soft tissue situation. I
Oh
don't love
no.
that. I
Oh
don't love
no.
that. But apparently Ron, with the whole smoke situation in DC, Ron was giving all the veterans a lot of extra time off. So hopefully it's just that. But yeah, that would be what I'm most
You didn't
optimistic
you
about is
didn't
pass
you didn't
catchers.
you didn't name Bates in the tight end group? I know you're
John Bates,
he's
great
your
great run blocking tight end. He has no business running around.
I
Great
know
run
how high
blocking
you
tight
are
end.
on him. Catch
He is a
radius,
great
man. He's Mr.
he
Catch
is
Radius.
he is a great run blocking tight end. He's a great second tight end in two tight end sets. We were hurting having him out there. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna rock with the receiving group because I think if we can just add one more piece, and if that piece is Logan Thomas, we are chilling with weapons wise. There's gonna be a mismatch somewhere on that field every play
Yeah.
next year. So receiving group is going to be most optimistic for me. Pop, what are you most hopeful about? Now these two things are a little similar but different. Hopeful. What do you think could take that step forward? But it's going to need a little help from Jesus. What are you most hopeful about for the
I
team
I
next
think it's
year?
a little different, right? Hopeful is what you hope will happen, and you've got
Yeah.
some feeling that it could, but the odds are a little longer. Like, I mean, if that
Wow.
defense,
Hopeful is what you hope will happen. Ladies and gents, hit that subscribe
I'm
button
trying to,
for
you
this
said
this
hopeful
level
and
of analysis.
optimistic are the same, and you're supposed to be the English one.
Hopeful. I said same but different. Hopeful is what you hope
Lost
to
me.
happen. Ladies and
All
gents,
right.
hit that like and subscribe button. You
Can I
can't get
give
this anywhere else. You
can I
can't get
give you
this
my
anywhere else.
points? Can I
Go
give you
ahead. Go
my
ahead. I'm
points?
sorry. I'm sorry.
Um, for me, what I'm most hopeful for, I was going to say the quarterbacks, right? What we're
Yep.
hearing in terms of both Sam Howell and Jacoby Brissett, and Ron tried to start up a little controversy there in his first presser last week, saying it was an open competition, but then he did end things saying it's still Sam Howell's job as QB1. But hearing good reports about both of them, Brissett, just the pro we thought he was, very solid. How more of that, just pure ability and talent, still makes some mistakes, a bit more often than a Brissett does. And then, of course,
Yep.
you know, the quarterbacks getting coached up by Eric Bieniemy. That's what I'm most hopeful about.
There you go. I like it. For me, I'm most hopeful about the defense. That is my switch answer. I'm most hopeful that that secondary can take the next step forward. You got a lot of young talent there with Emmanuel Forbes, with Quan Martin. That's the other cornerback we drafted. His name just came back to me as that sentence was rolling, so I'm happy about that. Maybe related to what did you call the day? You made Martin his last name. I can't even remember what the
Fedarian Mathis, right?
Fedarian Mathis is his name, but you changed it to Martin as his last name. You said Phil something at the
No, I
beginning.
didn't. No, I
Um,
didn't.
run the tape, run the tape. But yeah, for me, I'm most hopeful about the defense because for me, I think that's something that we've seen this defense be elite and then terrible and then back to elite in 3 seasons and mostly
Fair.
the same guys. So I'm most hopeful that we can maintain that this year. And I think we added the right pieces. That was something that we saw did not happen from 2020 to 2021. We did not add the right pieces on that defense and we struggled. We were terrible. And it took us getting rid of that piece we added, William Jackson III, for the defense to step back. So hopefully, I'm most hopeful that the defense steps forward. So, I mean, enough positivity. over here. We got to balance it out. What are you most concerned about, Pop?
Yeah, we talked about what most concerned, what was kind of the cacots of the off season is another way to phrase that.
Yeah,
I think just did they do enough with the offensive line, right? I mean, you
took the
talk
words
about the
right out of my
coaching,
mouth.
so we can vibe off of that. We both agree on that, and I think it's the obvious one, right? You talk about the coaching, and you talk about the weapons and the potential quarterback, but if we're not protecting that quarterback, it could really throw a problem into the mix. And we picked up a couple of free agents who are good players, but that left side of the offensive line, most especially, concerns me. And I just don't know if we did enough to upgrade there.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's 100% how I feel. We saw the offensive line was very good in what was it, 2021? I think they were the sixth ranked offensive line in the NFL, and that made Heineke look a lot better than he actually was. Sorry, Taylor, he's gone now. I don't have to. I don't have to cap for him anymore. He's not our quarterback anymore. I can call it what it was. Made him look a lot better than he was because he actually had some time back there in the pocket. And then you look at what they did from 2020 to 2021 was they brought in a bunch of veterans and they kind of retooled guys to make it work. They tried that again from 2021 to 2022 when we lost Brandon Sheriff, and that went terribly. We had a horrible offensive line last year, one of the worst in football. And now you see the same approach from 2022 to 2023. And that worries me. That really, 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 really worries me because you look at a guy like Andrew Wiley. Sure, he's a versatile piece. Sure, he just won a Super Bowl in Kansas City, but you can make the argument his best years are probably behind him. He's played a lot of football. You look at a guy like Nick Gates coming off of a gruesome leg break injury. Sure, he's vocal. Sure, he's a great leader. Is he going to give you 17 games or is it going to be December and we're looking at Keith Ishmael on our offensive line?
Mm.
That's a problem. We can't have that in December. You know, you look at a guy like Larson comes back. Of course, we got him very cheap. He was very effective when he could play, but injury issues. And then, of course, Charles Leno. We like to make the joke on this podcast that he's 99 years old. He's not, but he clearly was playing through something, was hurt last year. Trey Turner, same thing, playing through something, was hurt last year. Trey Turner turned his play around. He was the butt of every joke at the beginning of the year, and he was actually decent once he got right. I think he was actually hurt. Um, Sam Cosmi, Sadiq Charles, these are guys that never really developed the way we hoped they would develop. Speaking of second round picks, there's one right there on Sam Cosmi.
Yeah.
And he's been moved into guard, I think it sounds like. But man, yeah,
Yes.
I'm
Right guard.
I'm
Mhm.
I'm concerned. There's not one place on that offensive line. There's not one position that you look at and you feel good about. I mean, the closest thing would have to be Charles Leno at left tackle. You at least know what you're going to get from him. You're going to get 11 through 15 in the NFL left tackle play. That's what
Yeah.
you're going to get.
I think center would be the other one. I think, Larson played great. In fact, we seemed to win almost every game he played in. Just can't stay healthy. And
But
Martin, I
there's no
think.
way he starts over Nick Gates.
Right, but Gates, my point being, you've got Gates, and if Gates is good enough to start over um,
Larson.
Larson, then I think you've got two really good
Maybe.
players there, right?
That's possible.
But
And
can the
we
both of them
definitely
stay healthy? How many centers did we go through last year? Four. So I mean,
four
that's
last
scary.
year, four the year before, and the
But
four
like
last year,
quarterback,
they were rolling the ball. I mean, you saw Heineke, the poor guy was catching the
yeah,
snap like this, he'd have been down for it. So that will
yeah,
I mean, that'll F up the offensive line more than anything.
yeah.
Is if those snaps are not coming in right. So I mean, hopefully you're right. Hopefully, just improving that center and the other puzzle pieces can make it work. We're hearing all this like Carson Wentz esque buzz about Sadiq Charles. Do you buy any of that, Pop?
I don't even know what you're talking about, son.
Everybody's saying Sadiq Charles is getting ready to take the next step, similar to how last year everybody was like, "Oh, Carson's going to be
Let's
great."
hope
I think
so.
they're trying to talk themselves into that. I hope so, but I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
What round did we pick Shadiq in?
I don't know.
It
If I
was
don't know, that's a problem.
it was relatively high. I
I
want to
don't
say
know.
third.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you can get good offensive linemen late, but man, I am not convinced that we have any of them. I'm real worried about that situation.
Yeah, I guess my point was, it was another one that we've invested a fairly high pick in that hasn't worked out. Fourth round pick, so
Yeah, fourth
not
round.
as bad. But yeah,
Yeah, it's a day 3 pick.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but yeah, that's where we're both most concerned about because at the end of the day, you want to talk about this young quarterback, you want to talk about all the talent in the world. Howell could be great, but if we're missing an offensive line, he might not have the opportunity to show that off.
yeah.
So pretty worried about that. But I think overall, final thoughts, observations on the minicamp situation. I'll go first. It seems like generally positive.
Agree.
Overall, it seems like things are headed in the right direction. I really think, JP said this on the last Beltway football podcast, and I agreed with him. I think we've all been pretty hard on Ron, and he's gotten pretty ripped apart for the roster building comments that he made and stuff like that. But I think what he meant was this is the year that we can start to see the way he built out the roster start to come into fruition. And I think if you look top to bottom, this is probably the best team in terms of talent and roster construction we've had here in a long time. I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of talent up and down the field. I think they've hit on a lot of draft picks. They missed on a couple, but in general, I feel pretty good. How are you feeling,
Vegas
Pop?
is
What's
not
your
convinced of that,
final
by the way,
thoughts?
with our like 6.5 win totals. But my
They
final
do build
thoughts,
big buildings out there.
my final thoughts, and I'll keep it very quick. Isn't it
Yeah.
awesome to be talking about football and not all this off the field stuff, right?
Amen.
Like,
Amen.
Josh Harris thing is still buzzing along during behind the scenes. Seems like we've mostly all celebrated. Seems like a foregone conclusion. It's so great to just kind of already start to return back to normalcy and just be able to talk ball. So I'll leave it there.
Amen. I love that. And guys, get used to it. That's all we're gonna be doing is talking ball
Let's
for
hope
the
so.
long, long, long future. If as long as Josh Harris runs the team the way he's run all the other teams, we are chilling in that regard. Thank God. So, we thought we'd give you guys a little bit of Italians talking basketball to wrap the episode up. Get
One of our
into the
most fastest growing segments.
people seem to love it. People seem to love it. So, should have stuck with my Denver in 5 prediction. I felt it in my gut. I said Miami will get one. They're going to go home. They're going to get one at home. But man, it is just not even a competition. And I think going back home to Denver in game 5, there's no way. I mean, that place is going to be absolutely jumping. You remember what it looked like for game 1 against the Lakers?
Yeah, yeah,
And that was just because they had a chance to go to the finals.
yeah.
They have a chance to win it at home.
Yeah, so
I'm sorry. They don't make it past
this
that.
pod will
Go ahead.
come out before that game 5, and yeah, I think we both tried to be a little spicy and say it was going to be a 7 game series. I'm not sure either one of us deep down in our hearts believed it, but hey, we got to
Yeah.
man up, own up to our bottom bet there. But yeah, I just Denver is just putting it all together, and what a ball team in terms of the collective in that group. And you've got
Unreal.
their two best players peaking at just the perfect time, and the way the two of them play together,
Yeah.
right? With you know Murray and Jokic, it just it's a really great thing to see. Never know. I mean, we thought the Celtics were done, and they came back and made a 7 game series from it. And if Miami could find a way to get that game 5, then you know, they go back home and you never know. But yeah, it really seems, you know, Denver's going to win the series, right? It's just a question of whether or not they can wrap it up, and it would be a hell of a celebration for them and that fan base if they can wrap it at home.
Yeah.
And it just, like you said it before, I mean, Jokic is just such a great ball player, and triple double machine, averaging a triple double for the final series. I mean, That's insane.
Yeah, he's an alien. There's just no like I feel bad that I keep saying that. It's just repetitive, but there's just no other way to describe that guy in his game other than he's an alien.
What does
Like
this
that dude is
series?
just not normal.
What does this series though tell you related to sort of those, those that super team fad that was going on for a while and acquiring all these guys through free agency? It seems to be failing more and more. If you look at Denver, that's old school, right? It's a homegrown
Homegrown.
team. Coach we didn't know a whole lot about, who seems, you know, like a heck of a coach, putting it all together. Even Miami, that team's been together for a while. No real superstars. Jimmy Butler is a playoff superstar, but not somebody you'd probably say is a top five player in the league. And
Yeah.
they're breaking that idea of the super team, or really buying your way into a championship. In ball and in most sports, that team chemistry, how you play together, the unselfishness of playing. Then when it comes to the playoffs, you got to play ball the right way. You got to
Y
defend, and you got to share the ball. Make sure you're getting good looks. And it's interesting that these two teams are really against that mold.
Yeah, I mean, the super team thing worked when it worked. It had that era, the LeBron James Heat, and then the LeBron James Cavs, and then the Golden State Warriors with Durant. You saw that, and then I think what really broke that little history lesson here, it was the free agency where Braun went to the Lakers. Braun goes to the Lakers, AD goes to the Lakers, and everybody and their mother is saying Kawhi is going to go to the Lakers too. And then you see that and you go, they're going to start building super teams to try and compete with this guy. Kawhi goes to the Clippers. Super team era has pretty much been over since then. And
Or
you're
the
right. We've
Brooklyn
seen,
Nets failure, right? I mean, that was a
oh my God. Well,
that was a pretty big
anybody who
failure
thought that
there.
had anybody who thought that had any chance,
A
I
lot of
picked them to
people
win.
did, though.
I think I picked them to win it all last year, or at least to win the East. That was a huge mistake. Um, yeah, obviously you see a lot of. It's just hard when you get that many big name superstars in the same space. How do you get these big personalities to do what they do? But you know, hey, maybe the Wizards build a super team and bring it back. What do you say?
That's right. That's
There
right.
you go. So I say, without further ado, just wrap this thing up. I think it's been a great episode. I've enjoyed talking Chase Young and Minicamp. Guys, if you're still hanging with us, drop a comment. What are you doing? Come on, tell us what you thought. Don't be shy. It's all good. We got a couple loyal commenters letting us know what they think. Drop that
Love it.
comment, hit that subscribe button. Yes, thank you to everybody that's been checking us out. And without further ado, I've been Dom.
This is Pop.
Thanks for another great week, guys.
Love me, baby. Oh.